Hey folks, I get it, you're staring at another line item on the budget spreadsheet and wondering if this pricey piece of network gear is really worth the stretch. You've probably already felt the sting of a firewall that can't keep up when traffic spikes, or the headache of a single point of failure that brings the whole office to a crawl. The big question is whether the SonicWall NSa3800 high availability unit actually delivers the peace of mind you need, without turning into a sunk cost you'll regret. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through what this appliance does in a real-world setting, who should consider it, and who might be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the NSa3800HA isn't just a firewall, it's a redundancy pair that's meant to sit side by side with an existing NSa3800 appliance. The idea is simple: if one chassis goes down, whether because of a hardware fault, a power outage, or even a software crash, the other one takes over instantly, keeping your network sessions alive. That sounds great on paper, and for many mid-sized to large enterprises, the need for that kind of uptime is non-negotiable. Think of a financial services firm that processes thousands of transactions per minute, or a healthcare network that can't afford a single minute of downtime because patient data could be at risk. In those environments, the cost of a few seconds of outage quickly dwarfs the upfront expense of a HA pair. Now, let's talk about the day-to-day experience. The NSa3800HA unit comes with 24 gigabit Ethernet ports and 8 10 gigabit SFP+ slots. In practice, that means you can separate your LAN, WAN, DMZ, and management traffic without having to resort to excessive VLAN tagging or external switches. A client I spoke with, running a distributed data center with 3 sites, used the 10 gigabits per second uplinks to bundle their site-to-site VPNs. The firewall handled the aggregation cleanly, and the failover test they ran pulling the power on the primary unit for 10 seconds showed that the secondary took over with no packet loss and no user complaints. That's the kind of it just works scenario that most IT directors want to see before they sign a purchase order. On the flip side, the HA unit does add a layer of complexity you need to be comfortable managing. The synchronization process, which keeps configuration, session state, and policy data mirrored between the two devices, runs over a dedicated HA link. If that link is misconfigured or experiences latency, the failover can be slower than expected, or you could end up with drift between the two units. In a few cases, administrators reported having to re-sync manually after a firmware upgrade because the automatic sync didn't complete. So if your team isn't already familiar with SonicWall's HA configuration steps, you might need to allocate some additional time for training or consulting. Another practical consideration is the licensing model. The hardware itself is just the shell. You'll still need to subscribe to SonicWall's Capture ATP sandboxing, real-time deep memory inspection, RTDMI, and the intrusion prevention services to get the full security suite. Those subscriptions are sold on a per-device basis, so in a redundant pair you're essentially paying for 2 sets of licenses. For an organization that already has an existing SonicWall portfolio, the incremental cost might be manageable, but for a company starting from scratch, that recurring expense can be a surprise if you only looked at the hardware price tag. Who should buy this? If you're running a medium-tonnage network, say, 500 to 2,000 users with a need for high-availability firewalls, multiple VPN tunnels, and the capacity to handle millions of concurrent connections, the NSa3800HA pair is a solid choice. It shines in environments where downtime translates directly to revenue loss or regulatory penalties. The ability to support up to 4,000 VPN tunnels means you can comfortably accommodate remote workers, branch offices, and partner connections without hitting a hard limit. And if you already have SonicWall appliances in your stack, the HA unit fits seamlessly into the existing management console, making policy updates and reporting consistent across both devices. Conversely, if your organization is smaller, perhaps under 200 users, or you're operating on a tight budget, the HA pair may be overkill. You might be better served by a single NSa3800 or even an NSa2500, paired with a straightforward UPS for power redundancy. The extra ports and 10 GBE uplinks could sit idle, and you'd be paying for capacity you never use. Also, if your IT staff isn't comfortable with high availability configurations, the learning curve could outweigh the uptime benefits, especially if your current firewall rarely experiences failures. Now, Let's discuss the hidden trade-offs. One point that often gets glossed over is the space and power requirement. The HA unit is a full-size rack chassis, so you'll need enough rack units and power capacity to host both firewalls plus the associated power supplies. In a data center with limited rack space, adding a second chassis could force you to rearrange other equipment. Additionally, while the device advertises support for up to 6 million concurrent connections, you'll only see that level of performance if you're